Hey guys, it's Katie, and today we are talking about Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. Lord of Shadows is my most anticipated release for 2017, so I was so thrilled that this book is finally here after waiting over a year for it. I'm sure those of you who have read Lady Midnight were also so excited to finally find out what happens next. If you've already finished this book, you understand when I say that I am in a lot of pain right now. A lot of pain. So, story time. If you watched my Crackpot Theories video, you probably realized that I thought that this book did not come out until Friday, the 26th of May. That was very wrong. And that Tuesday, so I posted my Crackpot Theories video, and then I was like on Tumblr a couple hours later, and I saw people posting like pictures of them with the book, and I was like, what the hell? Like, this comes out today? So I raced over to Walmart or whatever before I had to go to work, because this was like an hour before work that I found out. Raced over to Walmart, found it, bought it, was so excited. So I thought Lord of Shadows didn't come out till Thursday, but then today I double checked and I was very wrong. So here it is. It's so pretty. Oh my god. Ah! And so then I started reading this book at work on my break that night, and I was like dying that night, like at work. I'm like taking orders on drive-thru, like, why am I here? I have a book to read. There are 700 pages of perfection calling my name. I'm at work reading on break, and I'm on page 8, and I've already screamed at least 5 times. So, Lord of Shadows is the second book in the Dark Artifices trilogy. This series is a continuation by Cassandra Clare. It's part of the Shadowhunter world, which if you have not checked out, I don't know what you're doing. Go read now. Lord of Shadows is the sequel to Lady Midnight, and we pick up 2 weeks after we left off. 2 weeks! I really enjoyed this book. It was really well written. I did give it a 10 out of 10. I thought it was very realistic and painful and wonderful, although the beginning was a little bit slow for me personally. So that is about all I can say without spoiling. So if you have not read this book, I don't know what you're doing, because there's nothing that I could think of that's more important. So go read. We open Lord of Shadows, and for us, it's been ages, and you know, all this time I've been like, oh my god, what is happening in Los Angeles, like, since the last time that we finished this story? Like, we ended Lady Midnight, and all these things had just gone down, and I was like, oh my god, like, so much could be happening, and we open 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. So, all this time that we have been suffering and not knowing how long, like, what's going down, it's only been 2 weeks. Not that much has happened, except for, like, me being in pain. As you can see, I'm wearing my I Like Herondale Boys shirt. It's my favorite. I think Ariana got this for me for, like, my 16th birthday, and I'm going to wear it for the rest of my life. We open, and Emma and Mark are not really dating. After we ended Lady Midnight, and he was all like, why pretend? We were all like, oh shit, like, he wants them to actually date, because he doesn't know that she's doing this because of Julian. So, all this time, we've been like, oh my god, they're really dating, even though Emma's in love with Julian. But no, we're okay. They, like, tried that, and it didn't work, because they're super awkward, because Emma's meant to be with Julian. So, it's fine. That's not happening. And the great part is, Christina knows. Like, Emma told everything to Christina, which I think is so great, because to do this completely alone, like, Mark doesn't know, so for her to go through this completely alone would just have been really terrible. Not that it wasn't already, but, like, I don't know how well she would have handled that. So we open, and there are all these sea demons all over the place. They still haven't been able to find Malcolm's corpse. All this stuff is going on, but it's, like, right where we left off, so it's still like, oh, we think that everything is fine, because they still don't know that Lady Midnight did, in fact, rise. Kit Herondale! Ah! Kit is still adjusting to life at the Institute, because his whole life he's been taught that Shadowhunters are evil, and now he is one, and he's kind of got this legacy of being a Herondale that he doesn't know what that means, because he hasn't grown up in the Shadowhunter world, and, like, he doesn't really care. In, like, the first chapter of the book, Jace shows up. Oh my god, I was reading this part at work and I screamed. There's something he said about like, oh, like it's not the name, or like, yeah, finding out you're a Herondale is a big deal. And it's such a flashback, like Kit being like, I'm a Herondale, and suddenly you're in City of Glass again. Oh, they have like this cute little heart-to-heart, except Kit doesn't really care. He's like, oh, like Jace, I don't care, like I don't care what it means to be a Shadowhunter. So Kit is still adjusting. Ty is like befriending him. He's kind of starting to join up with like Livy and Ty, like he starts to spy with them, and it's super cute. I just love it. He's like, if you make Livy laugh, you get 10 points, and he's like, oh, maybe this is the Herondale part of me, like not wanting to walk away from a challenge. We're waiting. The Centurions are supposed to show up in the near future, and we're like, oh, this is gonna be annoying because like we have to hide Arthur's condition from them because like obviously they can't find out because they would rat them out. We're gonna have to kind of take care of the kids, and like basically we have 50 intruders living in our house. What the hell, man? So the Centurions show up early, and that's super annoying for the people who actually live in the Institute or whatever. And then Diego's just like, shit, and you're like, what's going on? Why is Diego so nervous? Huh? What's going on? And then Zara shows up and introduces herself as Diego's fiancé. What? I screamed. Perfect Diego has a fiancé! Later on, we do find out that this is a farce, like the whole engagement is fake, and it's just to like find the time to hide this thing for Jamie, because otherwise, like, they're gonna be in trouble, and Zara will get this thing, and blah, blah, blah. But in this moment, oh my god, I was, like, freaking out. There was so much drama. We're at the beginning of the book, and there's already so much drama. Like, shit is going down. Poor Christina, who, like, had already been shown to be kind of, like, uncomfortable in her relationship with Diego. Like, it wasn't really what she had expected, because he is perfect, and like that's just really not what Christina needs personally, you know? So there was already kind of some awkwardness in their relationship, but then it's like, psych, it's good that you were uncomfortable because he was cheating on you. Gwyn shows up and announces that Kieran is up for execution by the Unseelie King, his father, who hates him. Gwyn like hits on Diana, which is like, oh, okay, that's interesting, you know, like put a bookmark there, let's see where that goes. Of course, Emma and Julian are, like, very brash, and they're like, fuck Kieran, man, like, we don't care, he can get executed, that's his deal. And Mark's like, yeah, totally, runs away to go to Faerie to save him, because he loves Kieran. Like, you don't just stop loving someone overnight, no matter what they do. Like, even if you had started to hate them, you can hate a person and love them at the same time. So, Mark is running off to Faerie to save Kieran, and of course, like, Julian and Emma and Christina are like, bitch, like, we're coming. I don't know what you think you're doing, like, you're not about to go alone. So, then they get to Faerie, and they have no powers. Like, for some reason, all of the Shadowhunter abilities and tools and runes do not work. There's, like, a blight on the land, and they're like, well, shit, like, now we're really screwed because we're in Faerie territory, like, we're on their turf, and we have no way to defend ourselves. Like, this is about to be really bad. Julian sees this enchantress, and it looks like Emma or whatever, and they, like, make out, and he's so excited to see her, and he just, like, kisses her, so full of love and stuff, and then it turns out to be some enchantress, and it's, like, crap, like, it shows the desires of your heart, and that's all I want, and they're like, so Julian's not that upset, because I don't know if you guys saw that snippet that was released, but it made it seem like Julian was gonna be dating someone other than Emma in this book, and I was like, no, that is not gonna fly. So it was good to be like, okay, like, Julian still loves her a lot. But then Emma sees him kissing her, and is like, oh, he's moved on from me. Good, my plan is working, as, like, her heart is crumbling inside of her chest. Then we meet this Foca thing? So this thing kind of pulls each of them aside one by one, and it makes them a promise, and it says, you can enter Faerie, but if you do, you have to, like, give me an offering, and then you'll get to see this. And each one of them has, like, this specific promise. And, like, for Emma, it's, you will get to see the face of someone that you have loved and lost. And for her, who lost her parents so young, and has been surrounded by family, and has just lost so many people that are important to her throughout her life, that's a big deal. So she says, of course. And so we're like, okay, what were the others' promise? And so then later it comes out, of course, that Julian would meet someone who knows how to break the parabatai bond, and you're like, ugh. And we find out that Christina was promised to be part of something that she would have an opportunity to end the cold peace. And I don't remember, did we ever find out what Mark got promised? I don't know, but I don't know, like, all of those things, they were small and they were mentioned in the rest of the story, but I feel like they're going to come into play more in the next book, like, those things. Obviously, like, Christine would be a part, and that hasn't really happened yet, so, like, just these things, I think they're going to come back. So then we get to the Unseelie court to save Kieran, and Emma and Julian are being badasses, and, like, it's so cool. Like, Julian is literally intimidating the king. Like, what? He does such a good job. Emma has to do this duel, and she's, like, winning, and then the fairy takes off their helmet, and it's her father. So, of course, she, like, gives up and is like, oh my god, like, what? No, like, I see. Of course, it's not her father, because that would just be too good to be true. It's just a fairy with a glamour, so that sucks. They manage to escape the king briefly after Mark grabs Kieran while this whole, like, drama stuff is going on, and they're running, but the king's court is, like, right on their tail, and they are going to die, and it's like, crap, like, we can't outrun them, and we can't fight them, like, this is it. And then this doorway opens in the side of the hill, or whatever the hell, and this woman is like, come, like, I'll save you, I have a place that we can go. And so they follow through, and, like, they find out that this woman is Mark's blood aunt. Like, she is the sister of the Lady Nerissa, who is the mother of Mark and Helen, so that's super cool, and we get to meet her briefly, and she doesn't have a whole lot of emotion towards them, but I definitely feel like she might play a bigger role in book 3. If you did read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, you did see that the Lady Nerissa, like, did truly love Andrew, and, like, they fell in love, and everything was good, and then, because of what happened to his brother, she, like, allowed him to think that she had enchanted him the whole time for his own good, and, like, died alone and sad. So I definitely think that that is going to play a big part in book 3. We meet the Seelie Queen. Again, this bitch, I can't. And so she makes all of these promises to Julian. She says, oh, well, Kieran can be my ambassador, and he can testify, and then if you bring me the Black Volume of the Dead, I will ensure that Helen and Aline can come home, because I will say that I require an ambassador, and I'll demand that it be them. And also, I will tell you how to break the parabatai bond. Like, I'll tell you how. At this point, she tells Julian that if she does tell him how, like, if they break their parabatai bond, it will also break every other parabatai bond on the planet. So that's Alec and Jace, that's Clary and Simon, and every single other pair that there is. Of course, we don't want that to happen, so this is the most frustrating thing ever, because parabatai is so essential, such a huge part of Shadowhunter culture, but also, we really want Julian and Emma to be together, and there's not really a whole lot of other options for them, so now this is kind of weighing on us for the rest of the book. At this point, we discover Kieran's memory loss, and now he doesn't remember how he betrayed Mark, that Mark broke up with him, nothing past when Mark went to stay with the Blackthorns. So he still thinks that him and Mark are together and everything is good. The Blackthorns, Christina, and Emma decide that it is best to just lie and let him believe that nothing has changed since then, because otherwise it might endanger his promise to testify on their behalf, which they need to prevent Zara and her father, the Dearborn evil clan, to take over their institute. Like, they have to stop that. So they're gonna lie to Kieran. Anytime we have something like this in a book where they lie to someone, especially when it comes to memory loss, you always know it's gonna come out and it's gonna come back to haunt them. So the second they did this, we were like, no, 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 you stupid idiots, like, don't. They did it. Later on in the book, Kieran does find out. He freaks out and he, like, walks away, like, duh, you pissed him off and you lied to him. At this point, we find out about Arthur's sacrifice through the Seelie Queen's mirror. He's having one of his lucid moments, and he goes and says, like, you want Blackthorn blood? Here, take it. And I'm like, oh, he's dying? Like, one of the kids isn't gonna have to die for this? Because now Malcolm has come back in the form of, like, this revenant demon thing, so he's dead, but he's not dead, like, he has the possibility of coming back to life, and he's still determined to bring Annabelle back. So Arthur was like, no, like, I don't want him to hurt the children in his moments of lucidity, and he goes to Malcolm's cave, or whatever, and is like, here, like, you can have me. Malcolm slits his throat, and uses it to bring Annabelle back to life. Annabelle comes back to life, sees her, like, descendant lying dead by her foot, sees Malcolm, who has betrayed her and now has killed someone of her family, and is like, listen, bitch, and, like, kills kills Malcolm. So now Malcolm is out of the way. I had been really worried going into this book that Annabelle would end up being an antagonistic force, but then at this point, I thought like, oh, she's gonna be on our side because she was really mad at Malcolm and what he did. So this has happened, but now we are waiting on the repercussions of Arthur's death because now we really do need a new head of Institute. Like, we can't argue that we don't. As soon as they find out that Arthur is dead, they will put someone else into his place. And since we know that Diana has refused and Julian is technically too young and they're not going to allow it, we're kind of screwed because it's probably going to be Zara. In addition, we don't really know what Arthur has been up to all these years, so if there's anything, any spells or whatever that he's been doing up in his attic for all these years, anything that he did before he lost his mind, those are all going to come back to haunt us at this point. So we are definitely, I think, going to see a lot of repercussions in the next book. We get back from Faerie, and the Centurions are a bunch of racist bitches, and I hate them. We continue to see that, and then they show up in London because of everything with Malcolm and the Centurions. So everybody is chilling in the London Institute. Jessamine is there, her ghost is there, but like only a couple of them can see her, like basically just Kit. Like the others can see when she knocks stuff off, but she's there and she's like talking to Kit. Man, I just love Jessamine and I miss her, and it's so cool that even though she's gone, she can like talk to them and stuff and like make little inside jokes that they don't get, but we as the reader get. They walk into their rooms and like one of them has Will and Jem, like their heights where they mark them on the wall. Oh my god, I started crying then and there. So then Emma announces that her and Mark have broken up because in order for the ruse with like Kieran to think that him and Mark are still dating, obviously Mark and Emma can't be dating. So Emma's like, oh, like it's fine kids, it doesn't matter because Mark and I broke up. And Mark is just like, oh, okay. But he had just found out from Christina that the real reason he was doing this was for Julian and Emma because they were in love. So he had told Emma to break up with him anyway. So he was fine with it. He just didn't see it coming. And then Julian, a few minutes later, yells at Emma for breaking his brother's heart. Julian, my love. But even when his heart is broken, he's still upset with Emma for hurting his brother. And he says, like, Cameron, me, Mark, who's next, Ty? And that is just it. Like, that is the last straw for Emma. She's like, how dare you? And she has to run away before she spills everything and makes everything with Mark having been pointless. And Jamie shows up in Drew's room. Like, she sees someone show up in her room. And I'm like, who the hell is this shadow hunter boy with tattoos? Like, what characters are we missing? Like, is there someone that I forgot was part of this story? And it's Jamie Rosales, like, Christina's ex-best friend who, like, started all this crap and, like, wanted to use her and didn't actually care about her, allegedly. So now we have Jamie and Drew kind of hanging out a lot, and I'm, like, low-key worried that this is going to be a thing because it was clear that Drew was kind of starting to develop feelings for him, except he's, like, 18 or 17 and she's 13, but because she is very well developed, she's like fine with allowing him to think that she's older, and it's never really been discussed. So I'm really, really worried about how that's going to play out in book 3. We have Kit and Livy like kiss because neither of them has kissed before, and Livy's like, listen, like I'm never around guys my age, like let's do this. And Kit's like, well, I mean, you're hot, like sure, whatever, I don't care. So then they kiss, and we're like unsure if Ty saw it. Kieran is now, like, around permanently, so we start to see him interact a lot more, and since he, like, swore his fealty to Christina and, like, needed her there whenever he was healing, they've had this, like, interesting connection going on. So now it's seeming like there might be something developing there, but he's still in love with Mark. Mark is still in love with him, but he also loves Christina. Christina low-key loves Mark, still getting over Diego, doesn't know what to do, liking Kieran as, like, a friend thus far. So I'm not sure if this is gonna turn into, like, a polyamorous situation or what. Like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to feel. I don't know what to ship. So then Livy, Ty, and Kit start to go on, like, their first mission, and then they sneak off to the shadow market because they're all like, oh, this is our first time out. I'm like, oh, I bet we could find out some answers. So they go, even though when they went to the shadow market in Los Angeles, it ended poorly, and then they claimed to be there on behalf of Barnabas because it was the only way they could get through. Barnabas shows up, they're all like attacking them, about to kill them, and then Magnus shows up and saves the day. Magnus Bane, the love of my life. So they get back to the Institute, and of course, like, everyone is livid. Seriously? Julian and Emma are now going on this little couple-day trip, and Christina was supposed to come with them. Julian and Emma are now going on this little couple-day trip, and Christina was supposed to come with them because of this bonding spell thing that happened while they were in Faerie at some revel. Her and Mark can't be separated, or like they get physical like marks and burns and blood on their arms. So now Christina can't come, and Julian and Emma are both just like, shit. They do go on the trip, and it's worse than that. They don't argue. They're perfect. Everything is super sweet, and it's like a taste of the life that they could have in another world. They have this like screaming fight about everything. Annabelle shows up. Her and Julian have this discussion, and she says like, hey, listen, like, you're my blood, so that's cool, but like also I'm not gonna give you the book, and you can't like go try to get it from me, like, don't. And now we're like, oh, what's Annabelle gonna do? Because it seems like she's on our side, but she doesn't want to help. Like, she kind of just wants to be a neutral player. So what's gonna happen when push comes to shove and she has to pick a side? Julian and Emma take this trip to the church to, like, find a thing, and of course, it's like a trap. Julian's like, I'm going to burn this church down. Like, our runes are super powerful. We can do this. But, of course, she thinks that he's not in love with her anymore, so it's not gonna work. And she puts her hands on his shoulders, and he, like, draws the room, and then it, bam, like, the whole building combusts, and they get back to the place where they're staying or whatever, and she's like, all of it was, like, pointless, like, you still love me. He's like, I'm always going to, like, I'm sorry that I can't control it, I'm sorry if you think it's disgusting, blah, 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 and, like, they scream, and they have, like, this huge blowout, because she's just so frustrated. The riders show up to come after the Blackthorns, because they think that they have the Black Volume, and apparently these riders are these ancient, like, primordial beastmen things. On behalf of the Unseelie King, they kind of, like, do his work, and so they're trying to find the Black Volume. They show up, and, like, Emma kills one, which has never been done, ever. They're also attacking the kids over somewhere else, and that's when, Magnus shows up. Gwyn also shows up. It's like, listen, the Wild Hunt has no sides, and we say that you can't hurt these people, so, like, leave. Julian and Emma have this huge, like, confession moment where she tells him everything, and that, like, her and Mark were never dating, and I still love you, and I'm always gonna love you, and the way that you feel, the way you're talking about, like, oh, you don't know what it's like to not be able to have the one thing that you want is how I feel all the time. And she tells him about the curse, and the whole reason that she did do this in the first place, because, like, they will go crazy and hurt everyone that they love, and they can't afford that. They're kind of torn and don't know what to do. And then Magnus walks in, because there cannot be a Cassandra Clare couple that does not get walked in on by Magnus Bane. So Malik and their kids show up at the Institute a little bit before this, backtracking a little bit. And they're so cute, and, like, Christina is speaking in Spanish to Rafi and, like, helping him sleep and singing him a little lullaby, and, like, talking to Alec and teaching him it, and, like, Magnus knows it, and it's just the cutest thing ever. I want a whole book just with Malik and their kids, with, like, little, like, babysitting visits from, like, Clace and Christina, and maybe Emma and Julie. Meanwhile, over in Idris, while Diana is talking to Gia and trying to convince her to help her come up with a plan, they're setting up this meeting to, like, discredit Zara and make sure that she can't inherit the Los Angeles Institute. She has this, like, confession with Gwyn where it comes out that she is transgender, she was born a male, and then after the war that happened, after her sister and her parents' deaths, she sought out mundane medicine because she just couldn't handle living in the body of a man when she knew she was a woman. And the problem is that the punishment for seeking out mundane medicine is very severe. The clave is awful. Surprise. So, of course, because this is a Cassandra Clare book, this is eventually going to come out. What is going to happen? What are going to be the repercussions when it does come out that Diana was born a male? I feel like Zara and her cohort of evil is going to, like, somehow find out and use that, because they do dislike anything that's different, and they're going to use that to be a reason to discredit her or imprison her or something. So, after walking in on Julian and Emma, Magnus kind of talks to them, like, they have this sit-down discussion where they're like, hey, like, listen, we know that this is illegal, we know why it's illegal, but we don't know what to do about it. Like, we can't figure out, like, a plan because nothing is gonna work. It's not, we've tried everything and it's not working. And nobody has ever done that before, and, like, maybe this is the thing that might change what happens. So he suggests that they do go to the Inquisitor. So they do go to Robert Lightwood, and they explain their situation, and they're like, listen, like, we know that it's illegal, blah, 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 like, can you please help us? And they have it all planned out so that, like, she'll go live in Mexico, and they can, like, dictate the terms of the exile, and that'll just, like, fix everything, because exile, like, dampens the bond, and then maybe it'll fix it so they won't go crazy. But he's like, yeah, sure, like, we'll do this as soon as, like, this whole thing right now, after this meeting, like, we will do this, we will sentence Emma to her exile, and then, like, whenever it's ready, like, she can come back, and it'll be good. Like, I'm glad that you guys came to me, and we're gonna work this out. Julian talks to Annabelle, and she agrees to give them back the black volume after testifying if everything goes well. Ty sent her this letter, and because of the honesty of his letter, and because in that honesty he still believes that Julian is a good person, she agrees. At this point, too much is working out, so shit is about to go down. We arrive at the meeting, and the cohort, the kind of shadow hunter Death Eaters, they're there, and they have, like, picket signs and everything that you expect from the KKK. Zara is there, and she's antagonizing everyone, and then Helen shows up with a lean. Everything is, like, coming to its climax, at which point Magnus collapses. This is the moment when things start going wrong. There's apparently some sort of warlock disease going around, and Jem and Tessa were gonna try to look into it, but with everything going on, they haven't really been able, especially because the disease is also affecting Tessa. Maybe in book 3, we'll get to see some of Tessa, and also more of this disease, because this is really problematic, especially if the Downworlders are about to have to fight a war with the cohort, when a quarter of the Downworlders don't have their powers and are ill. This means that Annabelle has to testify without Magnus, and as soon as she gets up there, people start to question her. They make her use the mortal sword, which she was tortured with 100 or 200 years ago, so naturally she reacts badly, which they question. And so she does answer honestly, and she says all of the things that are necessary to disprove Zara, at which point they're like, oh well, maybe because she's come back to life, this sword doesn't work on her. This does not end well. People start throwing shit, she freaks out, everything is bad, like you can just feel the tumultuous energy from the room in the reading experience. Like, she has the sword and she doesn't know what to do. All this stuff is getting thrown. The cohort is yelling. People are yelling at the cohort. And the Inquisitor starts to step towards her to take the sword and, like, calm her down, at which point she stabs him with it. Besides the fact that Robert is Alec and Isabel and Jace's father, and obviously this is going to be really hard for them, even though they have a very complicated relationship with him. Hard, especially now that he's finally just now having a good relationship with Alec. Besides that, we have the fact that now Julian and Emma don't have an option for what to do about their parabatai love bond curse thing. Not to mention, if he left any notes about it, any of his plans written down, and whoever succeeds him, which is probably going to be someone awful, given the rhyme of the times, we're going to get some kind of umbrage up in here. Anyone with that kind of power who is part of the cohort or shares beliefs with the cohort, that's not going to be good. So now the Inquisitor is dead, which just heightens the electricity and the fire in the room. The cohort is freaking out even more. And Julian's kind of going to try to stop Annabelle or whatever, and like Livy is like flying on the rafters, trying to like throw him a sword, and she does, and then she comes down and Annabelle stabs her. Oh my god, guys. Like, I knew she... It was so clear, like, in my Crackpot Theories video, I said, like, I thought that Livy was gonna die. I'm so upset. Like, I had predicted that this would happen, and then earlier, in Lord of Shadows, there's, like, a part where Livy, I think it's to Julian she's talking to, and she's saying, like, oh yeah, I'd really love to do that, like, when I grow up. And right then, I was like, Cassie, I hate you, because that was just, like, the moment for me. I was like, she's not gonna get to grow up. Now she's gone. Like, she had just, like, agreed to be parabatai with Ty, finally, after so long of him begging. And we see Ty's reaction, like, his face goes ashen, and he just loses it, because that is his twin. But, like, naturally, whenever we have twins, one of them has to die, because that's just how literature works. We have Emma narrating, like, the whole family freaking out, and, like, Mark is trying to, like, be there for Ty, and Helen is, like, far away, and she's with the younger kids and doesn't know what to do, and Julian, who's, like, holding Livy's body, because, like, that's his child, that's the daughter that he's raised, and she's gone, like, she's gone. Throughout this book, we kind of talk about Julian's darkness of character. We see, like, a lot of moments where he makes really questionable decisions. They have this conversation. She says, like, you know, when we say we'd do anything for the kids, we don't actually mean anything. Like, how far down that path is he gonna go in the next book? And now that he's lost Livy, like, how much worse is that gonna make it? Is he gonna, like, attempt to use the Black Volume to resurrect her? Is Mark gonna feel guilty because he's been letting the kids go on missions, and, like, she got hurt earlier in the book and stuff like that? Is that gonna make Mark feel partially responsible, even though obviously it's no one's fault but Annabelle's. We have Emma, who is also going to be dealing with the Parabatai bond. We don't know if her exile is still going to go in place in book 3. How is she going to handle Livy's death, especially if she is in exile? Is Helen going to get to stay? Because of all the hubbub, is Helen going to get to stay? Or is the cohort going to be taking over power and saying, oh, you're part fairy, go. Oh, Mark, you're also part fairy, go. Who is going to replace the Inquisitor? What's the cohort going to do next? We also had this short scene, and it was kind of not really mentioned again later in the book, where Clary talked to Emma, and at the end of Lady Midnight, we had this short snippet where Jace was proposing to Clary, and then they had to run away, but she was really upset because she didn't know how he would react when she rejected him. And in Lord of Shadows, towards the beginning, Clary and Emma have this discussion where she tells her, listen, like, the real reason I said no is not that I don't want to marry Jace. Like, of course I want to marry Jace, but I've been, like, having these predictive dreams, and basically, I'm going to be dying soon, and I think that my death is going to be a lot harder for him to handle if we're married. Like, I don't want to do that to him. I don't want to marry him right before I have to leave. And, like, I can't tell him that. He can't handle that right now. Like, he needs to be protected. So she, like, kind of tasks Emma with, after her death, explaining it to everyone, like, what happened and, like, why and everything. Definitely, in book 3, we will be seeing what goes on there if Clary really is gonna die. I really don't want Clary to die, man. In my Crackpot Theories video, I mentioned that I think that Cameron is gonna actually end up betraying them or whatever, and I still think that that's gonna happen. Like, we weren't in Los Angeles for this book, but I think in the next book, Cameron Ashdown is gonna do something sketchy because he's angry with Emma. Like, I'm holding on to that. Definitely, we're gonna have to see Ty kind of recovering from the loss of his twin, and it's gonna be so rough, and I'm so dreading it. I'm so dreading it. Oh my god, guys, Ty without Livy, like, what's he going to do? Livy is his rock, Livy is his world. We also have Kit, who's just kind of starting to accept his Herondale-ness, and just kind of starting to feel a part of the family when they lost such a crucial unit, and now he's kind of going to be in the middle of that, and also trying to fight in this war for this world that he's never been a part of. So that's definitely going to be really difficult, and we'll get to see a lot more of it, I think, in book 3. Will we get to see more of Jem and Tessa, is my question. Like, because they were mentioned in this book, and they're in the last one, and because of, like, this warlock curse, I feel like they might get, like, a brief time in book 3. There was the part when, like, Emma said something about, like, oh yeah, her husband, Jem, and I screamed. Mostly, I'm just still crying. That is all I have to say today for my Lord of Shadows review. I really, really did love this book. I thought it was so wonderfully written. I had a really hard time getting into it at the beginning. Kind of, it just felt a little disjointed, but it flowed together very nicely. It was very realistic, and it felt so heart-wrenching and wonderfully done. So, another brilliant work by Cassandra Clare. If y'all have any thoughts where you agree or disagree, just let me know in the comments below. Have a good one.